Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a question that really sits heavy on the minds of many people.
hmm
How do we navigate those, intertwined paths of career and marriage?
Yeah.
It's that point, or maybe several points in life, where professional goals and wanting that deep personal partnership kind of collide.
And figuring out how they fit together,
Mm-hmm.
well, it can feel like a huge puzzle, can it?
Definitely.
It's a fascinating place to be, and honestly, there's rarely a simple roadmap.
Right.
So, to help us explore this tricky landscape,
Mm-hmm.
we've been looking at a discussion from the Speak English Smartly YouTube channel,
Okay.
specifically their video Career vs. Marriage. And what's great about it, I think, is how it lays out all these different factors without, pushing just one way of thinking.
Exactly. And our aim with this deep dive, really for you listening, is to pull out those core insights, those different angles on this whole balancing act. We want to help you get a clearer picture of what's involved, cut through some of that noise from society or conflicting advice, and just think more deeply about what works for you.
Makes sense.
Okay, so let's jump right in. A central point they raise. Is it basically career first or marriage first?
Well, what immediately jumps out from their talk is that they really reject that idea of a universal order.
Okay.
It's not about which one has to come before the other, like in some rigid timeline. It's much more about understanding your own goals, the timing of things, and, well, everyone's circumstances are different, aren't they?
That's a much better way to think about it. Less like a race.
Yeah, more like a dance, maybe, where the steps change depending on the music or your partner.
I like that. And it naturally leads us to thinking about age and readiness, right? Because there's so much pressure around when people should get married.
Oh, definitely. And the discussion makes a really strong case against those, arbitrary timelines.
How so?
It stresses that hitting a certain age doesn't automatically mean you're ready for something as big as marriage.
Right.
Instead, the focus is put on a more holistic kind of readiness. Emotional maturity, maybe some financial stability or whatever that actually looks like for the couple.
Yeah, what feels stable to them.
Exactly. And just being in the right mental and emotional space for a real partnership. It's more about being aligned inside rather than hitting external milestones.
That makes a lot of sense. So, okay, let's shift then. What about people who do choose to marry earlier in their careers? What does the discussion say about the potential impacts, good and bad?
It presents a pretty balanced view, actually. On one hand, having that supportive partner early on, that can be a huge boost for your career.
How? Like a motivator.
Yeah, exactly. Someone to bounce ideas off, someone giving encouragement when things get tough, maybe helping you stay focused on the long game.
Okay.
But it also acknowledges the flip side, the reality of shared responsibilities that just come with marriage. That can naturally mean, rethinking priorities and where your time goes.
And this is where the dynamic between the couple becomes so crucial, isn't it?
Absolutely.
The discussion points out that if you have that open communication, that genuine support for each other's goals,
hmm
then getting married early doesn't have to hold your career back. It could actually be the opposite, like a partnership that pushes you both forward.
Totally agree. That mutual support is key.
Hmm.
Now, let's look at the other side of that coin. The idea of building up your career first, getting that solid foundation before marriage. What's the thinking there?
Well, a big argument is about the stability that a more established career can bring. Financial security,
Yeah.
basically.
Less stress.
Exactly. It can take away a major source of tension in a relationship, letting couples focus on building their life together without that constant worry about money.
And if you think about family well-being more broadly, a stable career can definitely help create a more secure environment for raising kids, managing expenses.
Sure, things like better healthcare options, maybe better schools.
Yeah, those areas where money, unfortunately, does have a real impact. The discussion notes that financial struggles can strain relationships, definitely.
Yeah.
So having less of that struggle can, help things run a bit smoother at home.
Though it's important to say, and the source does mention this, that money isn't everything, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
Successful, happy families exist with limited resources too. Hard work, shared values, community support, those are huge.
Definitely. But that cultural emphasis on financial security before marriage is still a real thing the discussion touches on.
Which brings us nicely to how culture plays into all this. How do they illustrate those variations?
Well, the video points out that in some cultures, yeah, proving you're financially secure is almost expected. It's seen as a sign of responsibility before you even think about proposing.
Okay.
But then in other cultures, the priority might be on getting married sooner, maybe regardless of the bank balance, with the idea that the couple will kind of build things together.
And does it mention potential downsides to that second approach?
It does, gently. It raises the potential challenges, the extra stress that can come with starting a marriage without much of a financial safety net.
It really shows how differently societies view, well, adulthood and partnership, doesn't it?
It really does. And the conversation then moves into a really sensitive area
Yeah.
that pressure people feel, internally and externally, to choose. And often, it's tied up with gender expectations.
Ah, yes. This is where that real tension can happen for people, right? Your own career dreams clashing with what family or society thinks you should be doing, timeline-wise.
Exactly. And the discussion talks specifically about how men might feel that pressure to be the main provider.
Right, the breadwinner idea.
Yeah. While women might face expectations to maybe prioritize family, potentially scaling back their career ambitions.
And even though those traditional roles are changing,
They are, slowly.
they still have a cold, don't they?
They absolutely do. But what's encouraging is that the source material gives examples of couples succeeding both ways, marrying early and building together, and waiting until they felt more financially ready.
So the message is really about finding what works for that specific couple.
Precisely. It boils down to what aligns with their unique dynamic and their shared values.
Okay, let's pivot slightly then. What about this idea of like a career-oriented versus a family-oriented mindset? Does the discussion suggest that being super focused on your career automatically means less interest in marriage?
It acknowledges that perception exists, for sure.
Yeah.
For people in really demanding fields, think medicine with those crazy hours, or maybe starting your own business, or high-level corporate jobs.
Yeah, lots of travel, long days.
Right. For those people, there can be a feeling that marriage and family might just get in the way of professional goals. The sheer time and energy needed can lead some to consciously say, okay, relationships are on hold for now.
But it doesn't leave it there, does it? It also talks about balancing both.
It does. It offers a more hopeful angle, emphasizing that it is possible to have both a demanding career and a fulfilling marriage.
Okay, so what makes that work, according to the discussion? What are the magic ingredients?
Well, no magic. But key things highlighted are having a
Yeah.
partner who genuinely gets it, who supports your ambitions.
Crucial.
Absolutely. Clear, honest communication about expectations right from the start, and a shared commitment to making time together, quality time, even if the quantity isn't always huge.
Being present when you are together.
Exactly. Fully engaged.
And I think that really gets to the heart of the anxiety people feel on both sides of this, doesn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, the fear for some that marriage will just derail their career versus the fear for others that focusing too much on career means missing out on love and family, maybe ending up alone.
Yeah, that's a perfect summary of the two opposing worries. Which brings us to something very practical the discussion covers: compromise.
Ah, the C word.
Indeed. And the video takes a refreshingly realistic stance here.
What's that?
Basically, that in almost every case, finding a balance that actually works long-term means both people have to be willing to compromise.
It's just not realistic to think you can give 100% to both your job and your marriage simultaneously all the time.
Pretty much. Not without making adjustments, trade-offs. It's just part of the deal.
And the source material also points out that our priorities aren't static, right? They change over time.
Exactly. They can shift throughout life.
Yeah.
Maybe early in your career, the focus is more on work, building that foundation. Later, maybe it leans more towards family. Or it could be the other way around for some. Life's dynamic.
They use the example of a top CEO, don't they?
They do, yeah. To illustrate the inherent difficulty of juggling those massive time demands, the travel,
With being really present and involved in family life, it's tough.
very tough. But the discussion also gives some practical examples of what it calls smart compromises.
Like what?
Things like, okay, maybe you accept you'll miss some weekday dinners because of work, but weekends become absolutely sacred family time.
Protect that time.
Or focusing on making the time you do have together really meaningful, really connecting, even if it's not hours and hours every day.
It really highlights that everyone's capacity to handle these dual demands is different, doesn't it?
Hugely different. And it depends so much on the job itself. Is there flexibility? Or is it constant high pressure?
Yeah.
And also the family situation.
Yeah.
What works for one person or couple might be totally unworkable for another.
So ultimately, the main message that kind of echoes through the source material is what?
I think it's the vital importance of making conscious choices, deliberate decisions that really line up with your individual goals and your shared priorities as a couple.
Okay. So As we wrap up this deep dive into, career versus marriage, navigating that whole space,
Hmm.
what's the big takeaway, the fundamental insight?
I'd say the most important thing to realize is that finding that sweet spot, that equilibrium between your personal life and your professional fulfillment,
Hmm.
well, it's an intensely personal journey.
No one-size-fits-all answer.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
There's no single formula that works for everyone.
Right. And on that note, here's a final thought maybe for you to ponder. Thinking about everything we've discussed today, what does a successful blend of your career goals and your personal life actually look like in your vision? What are the things you absolutely wouldn't compromise on? And where might there be some room for flexibility for those smart compromises we talked about?
That's a great question for reflection.
Yeah, it's a really valuable exercise, I think, just to check in with your own values and priorities. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.